You okay? Good evening, everyone. I apologize for the slightly late start this evening. We just had to take a few moments and get ourselves prepared, so thank you for your patience. Good evening and welcome to the Town of Aurora Committee of Adjustment meeting. I will start by introducing the committee members and staff. I am the chair of the meeting for this evening, and my name is Tom Plamondon, and the remaining members are to my left, David Mango, Roy Harrington, and to my right, Hank Gosser. The Secretary-Treasurer is Antonio Greco, and the planner this evening is Matthew Peverini. For each application that will be considered tonight, the following process will occur. I will briefly outline the purpose of the application or applications, and the applicant or agent will then be given the opportunity to make a presentation. However, one is not required. It is the applicant's decision whether they wish to speak or let the application proceed on the merits of the information as received. Following any initial comments from the applicant, I will invite members of the public who have an interest in the application to come forward and address the committee. Those members of the public who wish to speak must clearly state their name and address and sign the corresponding request for notice form on the table in front of us here on my left. After completing the form, please hand it to the Secretary-Treasurer. Each individual may speak only once on an issue, and once discussion has commenced in respect of a motion, no further presentations shall be made. If you require any assistance with regard to visual material or technical assistance, please let me know before making any presentation. This public meeting is being audio and video recorded. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded in accordance to the Municipal Act and Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including on the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk. Please be advised that the reports being considered tonight are available again on the desk here in front of me on my left, your right. Should you wish to receive notification of any of the decisions for tonight's meeting, please complete the appropriate form. Owners and agents will automatically be notified. Please ensure that all questions and or comments are directed through me as the chair. And if relevant, I will request the appropriate person respond. It should be noted that the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to any question or comments should the committee feel that it is appropriate. So we'll move to tonight's meeting. And I will look to the committee for approval of the agenda.
I shall move.
So moved by Madam Chair.
I mean,
It's okay, Roy. Seconded by David. All in favor? That's approved.
I'm so used to it.
I know. And I'll ask members of the committee if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof.
No.
Seeing none. So moving forward, I'll look to the committee for adoption of the minutes for the Committee of Adjustment minutes for October the 11th. That's meeting 18-10. Moved by David, seconded by Hank. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. And then I'll look to the committee to approve the minutes of the meeting for November 8th, and that's meeting 18-11. Moved by Hank.
Caveat.
Caveat, oh,
Through you, Mr. Chair. Did that one word get changed, Antonio, in the minutes? Okay, good. All right then. Yeah.
yeah, thank you for picking that up. And seconded by Hank, or Roy, thank you. All in favor? Oh, you didn't attend? All right, okay. So we have approval. All right. Moving on to the next item. Item 4. So we have an application this evening, and I'll ask and a request for a fees variance regarding minor variance application MV 2018-33, and that's for 32 wells, and that those fees be waived. Is the applicant here? Oh, okay. Thank you. And I believe the members of the committee would like some background on that, if you don't mind. Just and identify yourself.
My name is Igor Roma. I'm the owner of 32 Wells. The house is, I'm building the house for myself. The vision is to grow into this house, start a family. So the house has been built with wheelchair access in mind. When the original plans were submitted for the minor variance committee back in the summer, a couple summers ago, the ramp was built with the setbacks in mind. Unfortunately, there was an error in the elevation and in the grading plan. And so when they ended up actually building and partially the problem is no one knows how to build for somebody in a wheelchair. So when they actually finished the foundation and the front porch, I was unable to safely enter and exit my home. So on the original drawings, we actually had a ramp in the back. We had a ramp planned for in the garage and a ramp on the front of the house. Once the ramp started the ramp work started, they realized that we couldn't actually accomplish a proper slope without making the ramp longer. In fact, I couldn't do the same thing in the back or inside the garage because you only have so much room to work with. And so we ended up having to change the ramps to the lifts. So now there's a lift in the back, there's a lift in the garage, but I need one way to exit the house. If in case there's an emergency, if there's a fire or something, I need to be able to get out. So I needed one ramp in the home in order to safely exit the home. So the ramp has been built with an extension. We were not under the impression when we spoke to our designers that this was subject to any issue, because the assumption was that this was a landscaping item. And so from my discussions with the town and the inspector, he brought it to our attention that this was offside. And so we've submitted the application, we were resubmitting the drawings and everything else, so the plans will be updated. I would kindly request that the fee be reimbursed because of the sensitive nature of the ramp. I have no choice but to have this ramp this way. And had this error not been done in the first place, it's not like a malicious change or it's just a functionality issue. And I did submit, there was a ramp drawing on the original application. And so I would just request that, I've already paid one fee, and because we extended the ramp a little bit longer for my safety and my use of my own home, that the fee be refunded. And I've resubmitted all the paperwork, and everything will be done with the town. I've modified the application, so I've already paid fees
Yeah,
associated.
we're going to deal with the applications separately.
Sure, sure.
If we can just, because I'm going to need to go to staff as well
Sure.
I believe there was also a clerical error that was discovered as part of this process, which I think is relevant. So all I want to do is just talk about the fees.
Yeah.
Because, and what I'll do is, as chair, I'll make a request. I'll just let everyone know now. The presentation of applications actually separates what we are talking about now in terms of the fee request being waived and the application that is part of that discussion tonight. It's item 5. I'm going to pull it forward so that you don't have to move away and we can just deal with it all as one. So you're suggesting is that an application, and I remember it, was made, you're right, over a year ago. And this committee did grant a variance, and that there was a clerical error associated with the calculation of, I believe it was lot coverage. So the basis of your request tonight is you've already paid it once. An error was made in design. You've caught it. You've adjusted for it. Okay. Did you want to add anything else with regards just to the fees? Is the reason for the fees? Is there any other reason other than you've paid it once for a variance that was granted?
Yeah, I in my personal and humble opinion, I don't believe that a wheelchair ramp should even be subject to a committee of it, and that's my personal opinion with all due respect, but
Okay.
In my opinion, it's it's a safety concern. And so had I bought this house and it was already there and I wanted to live in this neighborhood and I had to build this ramp, no one would even say a word. But because it's a brand new build, I think there's been a lot of scrutiny and a lot of issue with our home. And so, it's the ramp has actually been in place for about 2 months and no one said a word about the ramp. And no one complained until the last stone went on the ramp. So I just have it's a very personal thing to me. It's a very sensitive issue, and so that's the other side of this. It's a matter of principle in my mind as well. So.
Can I just get, before we call for any comment, on fees only? This is just on fees. So is there any comment from staff in terms of bringing us up to speed with regards to the circulation?
Through the chair, can you please clarify what the request is?
So what I'm looking for is there is a request to waive the fees. Have those fees been paid for on this? At this time for this one?
Through the chair, my understanding is yes.
Yes? Okay. All right. So on the issue of fees, is there anyone from the public that has any comment on the fee issue? All right. Actually, I don't know that that's actually part of a variance here, so it's probably not that appropriate. Any comment from members of the committee on this? Roy?
Did I hear correctly? I know for a wheelchair ramp, there's a certain degree of rise and fall. Did I hear that was changed or had to be changed because it wasn't right? That is true? Because I know, being a building inspector, I know that there's a certain degree of rise and fall and the length of it. So in the first place, it wasn't done correctly, is that right?
So there was a miscalculation.
Do you want to turn on your mic, please?
So there was a miscalculation in that was missed by everybody. And essentially what happened was the house ended up being 1 foot taller than it should have been. And so the other problem is, because no one accounts for people with disabilities when they're actually building the home. So something as simple as having a flat lip, so we had to build up the porch even higher. So essentially this ended up resulting in an extra 16 inches of height. So it was 1 foot air and then 4 inches for everything else that kind of goes with the finishing, and in order to make it as flat as possible for me to enter the home. So we still couldn't accomplish the 1 inch to 1 foot of slope, but the ramp that as it sits now is still usable, but it's still technically not within the proper slope that I would have actually liked and what we had originally designed. So the original design was the proper 1 foot for 1 inch, and I didn't have the space. Otherwise, we'd be much longer. So it's still not perfect, but it's at least I think it's far enough. But I can still use the ramp. So we did the bare minimum that I could still use, but not quite the ramp that I wanted.
Did you have to add to the ramp?
Yes. So this is why we have the issue. So this is why the ramp ended up being a little bit longer, because had they kept the same slope, I wouldn't be able to get up the ramp at all.
Yeah. That's okay, thank you.
Hank?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So first comment, I wasn't here in 2017 when you previously got approvals. I'm a recent recruit. So, but having read the material, and as I understand it, you got variance approval for 2 items. And then you went ahead with the construction of your home. And then you got building permits issued. And that was all prepared by your architect or your engineers. Would that be correct?
Well, we got the permits first, then we started construction. Yes.
Right. But it was the people that you retained to do these drawings that put it all together for you.
Sorry.
Okay. And the variances that were issued back in 2017, that was also based upon the people that you had retained to do the work for you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So it wasn't a mistake on the part of the municipality, and it wasn't something that the committee at that time would have been aware of.
The drawings were presented to the municipality and they were approved. The grading, so there was a miscalculation that the town's engineer also missed. So the grading plan showed one height and the elevation drawing showed another height. But when they do the construction, they go by the grading plan. And so essentially what ended up happening was when they ended up building up the walls, it ended up not being 1 foot. It ended up having a difference of 1 foot. And so that resulted in, it got missed by our architect, it got missed by the town's engineers, so it got missed by everybody, the discrepancy.
So when did it get picked up?
It got picked up when the street building, right?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, my question will be to staff. Let's say for site plan application, the applicant has made an application, you have reviewed it, you have had approval, and then they've done the construction, and later on the applicant have found that there's a problem and they want reapproval. Do you charge fees for the reapproval?
Through the chair, through a site plan application, if it was discovered that there was a nonconformity, they would be before the committee for a minor variance. So they would then be subject to a fee for a minor variance.
So I'm not talking about minor variance, I'm talking just a site plan. I'm trying to get my reason is I'm trying to get an opinion from you, apart from this application, like the processes for any other applications. If things have been constructed and then comes with a revision for approval, do you charge fees?
Through the chair, it depends how far along in the application it is. Again, if it's approved, any changes are then subject and they're here before committee. If it's during the approval process through the technical submissions for site plan, we do not charge on a per submission basis. It's all just one fee up front.
Okay, thank you.
As it relates to the fees again, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. when it came forward on the initial plan, I don't recall the inclusion of the wheelchair ramp. Was there one on the original drawings? I don't recall, to staff. Or was that even required? Was it part of the submission?
Through the chair, if it was part of the original submission and there was a deficiency for the accessibility ramp, it would have been through variance at that time.
Would have been picked up, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But as the applicant has stated, there was a discrepancy in the building moving forward, and it's been caught more recently, and that's why it's before committee now.
Okay. And I guess the other part of this that I'm having a bit of a problem understanding, because we keep we keep talking about grade. So I don't understand how the grading would have impacted the setback itself. Are you suggesting that if the grading, if the building had been situated at a lower height, maybe that front section, which is really the section that applies to the setback reduction, we wouldn't be sitting here because of that? Have I got that right?
Yeah, so essentially what happened was if the plans that were submitted
Right.
showed a 10-foot ceiling in the basement, and the house was supposed to be 2 feet above ground. When they actually looked, and so this was on the front elevation drawings, okay? So all the drawings, except for the one that they used to build, showed this elevation. So the house should have been, whatever you have your base, but then it's 8 feet below ground, 2 feet above ground. That's what should have happened. When they actually did the work, they ended up doing still the 10-foot ceiling, but they ended up making the house 3 feet above ground because the drawing was showing only 7 feet.
I see.
So that's where it became a problem, because the house should have been only 2 feet above the ground level,
Right.
which would have reduced the number of steps and the ramp length and everything else, and I could have had a ramp in the back. This ended up changing the entire redesign because it became impossible to do the ramps, and like the ramp in the garage couldn't be done at all. And so the front ramp is the only ramp that I can have in order to exit the home.
Okay, I think we probably covered the application itself in this discussion, but we'll come back to that because all we're dealing with right now is fees. All right, I mean, that answers my questions as well. So I'm going to look to members of the committee for, we have an option. We have options. We can look at waiving the fees, and I will also, for members of the public, so that you understand, in the Planning Act, the municipality has an option to waive application fees, and it's done through a resolution of council, or the Committee of Adjustment may either waive fees under certain circumstances, we can reduce them, or we can refuse to allow the waiving of the fees, as this is a separate application for I'll call it an unrelated issue to the original variances that were granted. So those are the options that we have. So I'm going to look to the committee for a recommendation on this particular request.
Through the chair, before you make a recommendation, just a question to the, what's the amount of the fees, so that everybody knows?
Through the chair, a minor variance fee is approximately $1,949.
And that has already been paid? Okay, so that has been paid. So members of the committee? Go ahead, David.
Through the chair, based on the fact that to provide the ramp they have to follow the AODA, which usually the average of the slope of the ramp is 2%. And if really the building is a bit higher, you build at 2%, definitely it will go beyond where is expected. And the fact that this was part of the revision and the construction mistakes, I would propose that the fees be waived, or if not, maybe 50% of the fees, so that at least it covers the review effort by staff and also committee adjustment.
All right, so you have two parts to that, David. Do you want to see if there's a seconder for waiving all of it first? So I'll ask, is there a seconder for waiving all of the fees? Seeing none, do you want to?
So the other proposal is to waive just 50%
I'll
of
second
the
that
fees,
motion.
so that the other 50% covers the effort for review of the application and also for the committee adjustment effort.
Okay, is there a seconder for that?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Roy. I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries. So with that, if the committee is amenable, I would like to just move item number 5 up and ask us to deal with the balance of that particular application. And that means I've got to juggle my things here. Okay. So I'll call the application for minor variance 2018-33, and this is to permit an accessibility ramp with a setback of 2.5 meters from the front property line, thereby requiring a variance of 2 meters. So the actual setback is 4.5 meters. Departments and agencies circulated. Planning Division, application reviewed, no comments. Building Division, there's a preliminary zoning review. Engineering Division, application reviewed with no comments. Operational Services, reviewed, no comments. Central York Fire Services, reviewed, no comments. Electric Utilities, reviewed, no comments. York Region, application reviewed, no comments. And looking at this, there are no other conditions. I'll call applicant or agent. I think you've covered it off. Is there anything else that you want to offer in terms of presentation or rationale at this point?
No, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Are there members of the public who wish to comment or speak on this application? I'll ask you to come forward and identify yourself and your address, please.
Turn on the mic, please.
It's on, yeah. Maybe just tip the microphone up a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry. Staff, do you want to fill us in a little bit on this first? I'm sorry.
Through the chair, before we proceed with this matter, I just wanted to clear up that there was a clerical error on the site plan that was circulated in the notice of application to the public and to agencies. That site plan noted a lot coverage of 40.55% and a building area of 414.61 meters squared. This site plan was a previous iteration of the plan that was included, and that included the porch in the front and the rear yard as part of the lot coverage and building area. So as mentioned, this was a previous iteration. When doing preliminary zoning, this was caught. The porch isn't included in the lot coverage area, so the site plan should instead read 37.73%. And by way of variance previously, it is in conformity with the lot coverage provision. With this said, the variance request still remains the same and is accurately represented on the site plan that is circulated with respect to the accessibility ramp in the front yard.
Yeah, and I apologize. I was trying to get to that before we started dealing with the fees, and that was the clerical error that I was drawing our attention to. It just skipped my mind where that should have come into the discussion, so I appreciate that from staff. So, sir, please go ahead.
Again, it's Blake Aspen. I live at 40 Wells Street. I guess my biggest concern, well, first of all, I'd like to say I believe in the town being rejuvenated, so I'm not against development. I totally believe, but what I have a problem with is homes being built to the maximum, which cause a lot of other issues. I don't believe this is an accessibility issue that's being made to as much as a mistake or incompetence, or however we want to look at it. I have the drawings here. I went through the Freedom of Information Act. I got the as-built drawing. The original finished floor height was supposed to be 267.72, and the finished floor height on the as-built was 267.9, which is basically, you know, within what, 18 centimeters of what it was supposed to have been. So I think it's just poor planning, and I look at the lot grading plan, and as neighbors, somehow the lot grading plan, all the water sheds from the front of the house to the back of the house. And the dimensions on the drawings, again, are very poorly done, showing that the existing sidewalk is at roughly 267, and the grading at the side of the house is 2675. At a 2% slope, there should be 13 centimeters, which makes it only like 5 centimeters, no 2% slope. But then on the as-built drawing, it's showing the sidewalk at 2670, so there's actually basically no slope. And the biggest problem I'm having is there's issues when people are allowed to build to the extremities, and now all the water's running off onto the neighboring properties and not being dealt with properly. And I know this may not be the exact right forum, because this is another issue with the ramp, but I find it an issue with a lot of inconsistencies. And I know they're saying the lot coverage was 40%. I actually think with the inconsistencies, the surveyor should actually, and I believe this should be done in every house being done, there should be an official survey, and the surveyor should tell the proper percentage, not just someone's coming up with a number and it's okay. Like it's even like the surveyor hasn't said the distance of the new ramp. Is it really going to be that dimension again? It's there, like, and I don't know. I just find it's what's the proper term? It's convenient. It's been convenient. You know, to say it's a problem now. I just find it's, I don't know. I just see a lot of other problems with all the water shedding to my neighbors. A sidewalk only like a foot away from her property and being 6 inches higher, like that's for sure going to her property. And being in everything in the whole neighborhood's unconforming. Her house is only half a meter away, right?
Yeah, so. And I appreciate your comments, and I think, you know, you're not wrong in your observations. Whenever we have applications before us where water and drainage is an issue, you know, you have to. When I say you, I mean we have to rely on the information that's provided. Staff have to rely on the information that's provided to them, and you know, and its accuracy.
You just have to look at the drawings, and it's not accurate.
Unfortunately, or fortunate, I don't think it has a bearing. With respect to this particular application, drainage wasn't an issue.
The fact that what they were asking for in height, the house height, on the original drawings was basically the house height that it is. right? So it's the finished floor isn't a lot higher than it was supposed to be. It's basically what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and
And that's on the drawings. I know it sounds crazy, but we're at an application here, and no one has the real numbers. You're getting a number that someone just gave you.
we
When it's
have,
done by the surveyors, they're legally binded to do it properly. So now we have incorrect numbers being looked at and said, you're making decisions with incorrect numbers.
and we don't know what survey documents, generated the plan that was prepared by the Gregory Design Group.
I have the as-built drawings, and I got them. I went and got them,
Right.
freedom of information,
Yeah.
got everything.
Yeah.
So I was speaking with real numbers involved, not.
So are you suggesting that the numbers that we're looking at for this reduction in setback are incorrect, or
I don't know. We
You
don't
don't know?
We don't know if they're right.
again, staff have reviewed this, and the numbers that we are being given here are not something that we're generating as a committee. We're being asked to evaluate it on the basis of what we've got.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, I know numbers that are on these drawings. It's the sidewalk. It's there. It's easy to see, but it's not right.
Okay.
So I just think an application should be approved on proper numbers and proper information.
Okay. Thank you. Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
So we've been in contact with our inspector. The final as-built survey is actually being generated. We've been in contact with our surveyor. We're actually redoing the survey, and that will be provided to the town hopefully by the end of next week. He's going out early next week to redo the measurements. So what we provided to the town right now is the redesigned site plan based on the architectural measurements that were provided by our architect, Gregory Group, and the surveyor who stamped the grading plan that was provided to the town with the slopes and the drainage. And one thing to note as well, on the water runoff, the grading isn't done yet. We have a $10,000 deposit with the town that still needs to be inspected and still needs to be worked out. So that piece is not finalized yet. This is just on the ramp, and that as-built survey should be ready hopefully at the end of next week, and will be provided to the town.
All right. Understood. To staff, we're assuming, not assuming, but we trust that, the application is complete before it comes before this committee. So the numbers that we are looking at here are the numbers that the applicant is comfortable with and that the town is comfortable with.
Through the chair, you're correct. At this point, it's the applicant coming forth with what they believe, and anything as built should conform with the request. Otherwise, they will be back before committee for further relief.
Right. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to address the committee? Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Dave Presley. I'm from 85 Harrison Avenue. Just a few little things. I've heard all the commotion that goes on about this house, but I want to speak to just the handicapped access to the building. And when I first saw this, I walked over and had a look at your house, and absolutely surprised that there was already a ramp there out front, because you're looking for a variance here, and you build it before you get the variance, and you knew the house had come up too high, and then it's throwing you out. But it doesn't really make a whole bunch of difference because it's a switchback ramp. So you come down this way, you come to a landing, and then you go back. That's still, no matter what you do, if you were down another foot, you would still have to put the switchback in. And you would be out where you are currently, about 2 meters off the sidewalk, 2.2 I think it is, or something. And I was surprised at that. And then I walked a little further and saw a lift in the garage, so he's got 2 means of access to the front. Okay. why not put one access to the back? Because I understand it's for emergency purposes, and he's got lots of room back there. You could build it straight out. You could be 4 feet off the ground and still only go out 48 feet. You could be 5 feet out and just go out 60 feet and put a switch back in. It's possible to do out there. So I get worried about what's happening around our neighborhoods where people go to get a variance, and they go to get a variance, and the variance is becoming the way of doing it. Rather, it seems to be. I don't know if it is or not. You gentlemen know better than I do, but that's what the view I get. And I think this poor guy has been taken advantage of, probably by his designer or architect or whoever it was. They didn't explain carefully to him. His builder obviously screwed up. So it's not his fault, but he's got the end result of it. And I would prefer that, I hate to say it, but I would prefer to see him move that ramp to the back. It means a lot of demolition and tearing out a lot of money. And that's something for you guys to decide. You're welcome to the problem, So that's my issue with this, that he's already built it. I'm surprised that he built it before he came. Okay?
I can tell you, I'll just address one of your comments. I can tell you that I've sat on this committee now since the end of my first term here, and in all of the applications that I've dealt with, I think there may have been one, possibly two, where something has been built, and then the individual comes forward and then asks for the variance, kind of, please, I made a mistake, son of a gun. I didn't mean to. So it is not a common occurrence at all. Most of the time, these things are, they come before the committee long before they get built or, get reviewed for consideration. And I can also tell you that that's probably one of the reasons why, when it came to dealing with this application, the request to get the fees waived, was not sort of, blanketly approved. There is some semblance of responsibility that the applicant has to make. I understand he made an application, he made a variance application before, he paid his fee, that was approved. This time, is it related? It might be, to a degree, but again, the owner ultimately has to assume some degree of responsibility for those financial costs as well. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think the committee decided to just blanketly say, we'll waive all of the fees. But I do appreciate your comments and your suggestion that there is an alternative. Much appreciated. I think the applicant actually has spoken about the ramps and the other ramps and the other accesses to the property that he's got. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but yeah, it's evident where you're providing access and why. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, the house is 101 feet long, and the back porch is another 14 feet long.
Yeah.
So if the ramp is in the back and there's a fire, and I crawl out the back, how am I going to get to the front?
Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this application? Okay, members of the committee, I'll look to you for comments or questions on this application. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm just addressing the first gentleman. I forget your name, sorry. So what I gather from your comments, you're not objecting to the setback variance request. You're objecting in the sense that what has already transpired in terms of the house construction and what's happened in regard to that, correct?
Yeah, I just don't think it ever should needed to get to this.
Okay.
Should have been planned. I personally built handicap homes.
I'll just ask if you are going to speak to the comments, please come forward. And just address them through me.
Sorry, I'm not.
No, that's okay.
I just think it should have been all planned ahead of time. Like, people look at this, like, we put emergency generators in to run the lifts. You know, everything's planned ahead of time. Wheeling flat into the garage, into the home. It's like it's planned. And then just at the end to say we screwed up. Okay, I can understand that, but I just see there needs to be I'm just trying to say there needs to be some sort of accountability with all the documents and all the numbers. And it's like, it's documents and numbers. It's not a wheelchair ramp. If it was a set of stairs that someone put out there, they'd be taken off and had to be moved. Like, that's the fact. You know, it's, I've put emergency generators in to run these ramps. Like, anyways, it's taking advantage. I find the houses are being made so big and so, they're just taking advantage of the situation.
You okay? Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I think my question has already been, this is what the other gentleman raised, and I think he has answered in terms of safety, fire safety, and so on. So, and from what the other gentleman was talking about, you have already commented about there are very few cases where things are built and they come to us for forgiveness. So there are not many of those, but of course we understand your concern. It's not appropriate. They have to consider the design right away from the beginning, see what the footprint will be, and all these other things like lamps and whatever, where to make sure they fit within that lot envelope. We agree with you 100%. Yeah. So those are just my comments. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll look to the committee for a motion on the application. Roy?
I move that application number MV 2018-33 be approved, and there's no conditions attached, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Hank. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you, sir. Okay, so now I'm back up to a presentation of applications. I'm up to number 1 now. And this is minor variance application Marsland. This is 77 Wellington Street East. And this is minor variance 2018-26. The purpose of the application is to permit a maximum of 8 parking spaces, thereby requiring a variance of 5 parking spaces. Departments and agencies circulated: Planning Division, application reviewed, no comments. Building Division, preliminary zoning review. Engineering Division, application reviewed, no comments. Operational Services, no comments subject to conditions. Central York Fire Services, application reviewed, no comments. Electric Utilities, application reviewed, no comments. York Region, application reviewed. I understand there may be some additional comments coming forward. This application came before the committee at the last meeting, and at the request of the applicant, it was deferred. And I see the applicant is here, and I'll ask you to come forward. Good evening. And I'm assuming that you're going to want to make some presentation with regards to the comments that were made from the meeting that we held last month. Good evening.
How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
We deferred our application last time, and today I've asked the consultant firm to prepare a presentation for us. and present to us the solution for this problem that we currently have.
Thank you very much. And just identify yourself, sir.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Piruz Davudnia, and I am transportation planner and traffic analyst with Lee Consulting, located at 625 Cochrane Drive in Markham. Since all the previous comments were related to parking and traffic issues, I wish to speak for these matters, and the agent can take over for the rest of the items if required. Yes, please. Can you please go to the next one? Well, the purpose of this minor variance application is to construct a rear playground for proposed daycare center, and the site-specific bylaw requirements specifies that 13 parking spaces are required. The proposal is to provide 8 parking spaces. Next slide, please. Okay. Well, the committee pointed out some valid points during the last meeting on October, which are mainly includes what are the number of parking spaces required for pickup drop-off activities. Existing driveway may cause traffic issues, including insufficient gap to enter and exit the site. Internal site circulation and vehicle maneuvering must be investigated regarding the driveway operations. Well, we looked into this, and to address the parking issues, we were asked to conduct a proxy site survey, which is shown in the next slide. Yeah, with Bluepin, which is located with much Otis dependent area at Bayview and Brawley's Avenue, if I spelled it, correct, with capacity of 60 children, 10 teachers, area of 300 square meters, and the survey was conducted through 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Next slide, please. Yeah, subject site pickup drop-off demand then was calculated based on the observed proxy site rates, which showed maximum of 4 spaces were occupied for only 4 minutes during the PM peak period. As can be observed on the, one of the reasons for that is the long waiting time during the PM peak hour. You can see on the table the maximum dwelling time was actually for one vehicle over 1 hour, and one vehicle was there for 30 minutes, another one for 27 minutes. So that's one of the issues that actually raises up to 4 spaces for pickup drop-off. Anyways, we propose to assign 4 spaces for this matter to capture the all maximum activities. Next slide, please. So in overall, for parking, we proposed 4 parking spaces to be identified with signs for pickup drop-off, and the parking time be limited to 15 minutes, and 1 staff is also is assisting in drop-off activities based on the Ministry of Education requirements, and the applicant has confirmed that. And 4 parking spaces will be reserved for employees. Next slide, please. As for the driveway width, we looked into the bylaw standards and minimum width. Minimum width is 4 meters and maximum is 9 meters. And the existing and proposed driveway width varies from 4.2 meters to 7.4 meters, which satisfies bylaw. However, as committee mentioned some valid points, we looked into the traffic operations in our study, and came up with this alternative design. We actually had a lot of internal discussions to come up with the best solution, and we believe this one is actually working and best one. Driveway modified to accommodate 2-way traffic at entrance. and signage and pavement marking proposed to prioritize the inbound traffic. And design vehicle demonstrated represents the large-size vehicles like Ford F-150, which is typically larger than minivans and typical SUVs that would use this site. I can go over the design elements here from the top to the down. We widened the driveway up to 5.5 meters to allow 2 vehicles to get in and get out. At the same time, we couldn't actually extend that length more because we had to maintain the sidewalk and the connectivity of the pedestrians, and also not to demolish the building. Further down, we provided a stop sign with note on that implies that the vehicles should stop at the stop bar, the outbound vehicle, until the driveway is actually cleared to make their path. You can see also the signages we added for the pickup drop-off spaces. Next, please. So, to test the capacity of these configurations, we calculated the minute-by-minute two-way traffic generation, which is a maximum of 3 vehicles. As shown on the figure, the proposed design can accommodate more than 6 moving cars at a time, which is over 2 times greater than required capacity. My personal belief that even more cars can fit in there. So, the application is reviewed against for minor variance tests. Test 1 is the general intent of the and purpose of the town's official plan is maintained. Parking should not be located in front yard of any building, which is not there. Adequate parking drop-off and pick-up facilities shall be provided, which is provided, I believe. And the last one is parking requirements may be further reduced following the introduction of high-order transit facilities along Yonge Street and or Wellington Street, which directly applies to this piece of land. Test 2, the general intent and purpose of the town's zoning bylaw is maintained. Zoning bylaw 6000-17 general provisions for parking supply for this daycare results in 5 parking spaces, while the proposed is 8 parking spaces. Test 3, the requested variance is desirable for appropriate development or use of land, building, or structure. The proposed parking supply will accommodate the projected parking and pick-up drop-off activities. No negative impact is expected to occur off-site. And test 4, requested variance is minor in nature. Proposed parking condition does not pose any adverse impacts on the street and surrounding character of the community. Proposed design improves the existing condition actually and ensures design vehicles can maneuver within the site conveniently. That would be my presentation for tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did the applicant want to add any additional information over and above what has already been presented? No? Okay. Thank you. Don't go too far away. I'm sure that members of the committee here will have some questions for you shortly. But in the meantime, if you want to just take a seat for a second, is there anyone here from the public that wishes to speak to this application? Sir, please come forward. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. Through you, Mr. Chair. My name is Drew Brims. I live at 91 Centre Street. I have several concerns regarding this application. The first one is that parking and traffic congestion in this area is already a problem. Living on Centre Street, we have several people who actually flout the law and park during the daytime, go to the GO station, and our bylaw officers can't catch everybody. It causes a lot of congestion on the street. The requested variance is for a reduction of 5 parking spaces from a required 13. That's a 38% reduction. In my opinion, it's not a minor amount. As I've said in the past to committee, I submit to the committee that 5 to 10% is a minor variance, and anything above that should not be considered minor. I have questions. How many businesses will operate out of this building? Is it just the daycare? Or is there other businesses going to be operating out of the building?
So I think I can answer that and just suggest to you that it is just the daycare.
Okay.
And the applicant is shaking his head. I'll try and answer those questions if I can. If not, we'll come back to them in a moment.
Where are the accessible parking spaces? In the presentation that was just shown, I didn't see any accessible parking. Is that not required?
Handicap parking? Okay, we'll come back to that.
The presentation said that there were 10 teachers and there are 4 spaces available for 10 teachers. I submit to you that if there are 10 teachers and there are probably more support staff, maybe 2 cooks, cleaners, whatever they are, teachers' aides, that 8 parking spaces will not be sufficient for that. We all know that we would all love to be taking public transit, but we all know that 99% of us don't take public transit. We have to drive our cars to work. And where are those cars going to park? If it's just the daycare that's operating out of the building and the variance is granted, which I don't think it should be, can the exclusive use of the building be part of the variance? And also, if the variance is granted, can the variance be tied to the business, the daycare business, rather than the property, so that, as we all know, businesses have a life cycle. So when this business exits the property, either moves to a larger property or closes or whatever, that the variance be reversed or ceases to exist, and either the exiting owner of the property or the owner coming in has to revert back to the 13 required parking spaces or whatever is required at the time by the town. I thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you. So you've raised some of the questions, in fact, that the committee at the last month's meeting had brought up. So what I'll do is I should ask if there's anyone else from the public that wishes to address the committee on this application, sir. It's east. Yeah. You okay? All right. So I'll go through your questions, and I'll go to staff here. Is there a requirement for handicap parking spaces given the use?
Through the chair, this variance is just to request a reduction in parking spaces, subject to any approval and permits moving forward. If there is a requirement for barrier-free, that will be they'll have to comply with that requirement. So if the reduction is to 8 spaces and there is a requirement for barrier-free, a barrier-free will be included in those 8 spaces.
And I would assume that that can be accomplished through potential changes to the proposed playground area at the rear of the site, yeah, to give the wider space. With respect to your comment on teachers and potential aides, I read in the application, I believe it actually was in the parking study, there is reference in there that I'll ask the applicant to reconfirm the number of staff, and I believe it's 3. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, please.
Yeah, based on the information that I have, it's 7 full-time and up to 3 part-time employees.
Okay. And I think that is that not a function of Ministry of Education requirements?
As we're told.
Right. So that's tied to the total maximum number of people coming in and the square footage that you have within the structure itself.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. And so the comment that was made was if you have 7 teachers and up to an additional 3, and where are they going to park when you've only dedicated 4 of those spaces for those folks? And I think we will probably, through other members of the committee, and maybe I'll just park that for the moment, we'll probably be coming back to that with some comments coming forward. There's certainly an intent when you look at the report that was done by the consultant that there's an opportunity, a very large opportunity for people bringing children to this particular facility to use public transit. There's a lot of public transit that comes and goes through that particular area of the town. And in fact, the amount of public transit, the train station, the volume of traffic out in Wellington is as much, I think, a concern for the committee as the traffic that this particular daycare is going to generate, how that flows and moves. And I'm going to be coming back to that myself, if not other members of the committee. But you're encouraging, I believe, to respond to the question that was asked, staff to use public transit, and there are some incentives that are going to be offered to them to do exactly that. Okay. Seeing no other members of the public coming forward to speak to this, and I think we're going to come back to some of those questions again through some of the comments that are going to come forward and questions that have come forward from the committee. So I'll turn it over to members of the committee to speak to the application question, and if there are any additional conditions that want to come out of our discussions, then that may very well happen or occur. So do you want to start at this end? Hank?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to go back to the proxy study. And in my own mind, I have difficulty thinking that the proxy site is in any way the same or is comparable to the site we're talking about here. That site is not on a major thoroughfare. Wellington is a major thoroughfare. Borealis is not. The Borealis site has literally dozens of parking spots where people can come and go. The access point into that little plaza is more than adequate to address the inflow, the outflow of traffic. So I really have a lot of difficulty with that. And in my own mind, I question that 4 spots for staff is adequate and 4 spots for people dropping off their children is adequate. I just kind of reflect back when I had to take my kids, and there was a lot more activity going on than 4 spots at any one time. So if you can comment on that, I would appreciate it.
Well, in terms of comparability, we actually selected lots of daycares, but they're not really exactly comparable sites within Aurora. we were actually, one of the constraints was to find one in Aurora. And through 3 or 5 alternatives, we asked staff comments, and they actually approved this one. And we...
Sorry, which staff? Not municipal staff.
Yeah, town staff.
So municipal staff suggested this was the proxy site?
Yes, we confirmed them through our terms of reference. We won't do any parking surveys without in terms of reference that got approved with the staff. So this was the best option that we could find. And in terms of parking supply and that plaza, you're absolutely right. There are, if I'm not mistaken, more than 50 parking spots available. What we did was actually we traced everyone who entered there and exited there. We actually documented their license plates, how long they stayed, which use they went through. There's a dry cleaner, and which one had kids with them, and all of these. And it's a very thorough study, actually, not really comparable to other parking studies. And so that actually would result. What one of my points was that specific daycare is located in very auto-centric location with oversupply of parking. So even that number should be reduced, in my opinion. 4 parking space occupied is not the trip generation. It's just the maximum occupancy of the number of space for short times for pickup drop-off only. So the trip generation actually we have in our report is around 22, something like that, during the peak period, based on this. And we validated that with another ITE trip generation rate manual, which is usually used for suburban areas. And therefore, my opinion is that 4 parking spaces is sufficient. And another thing is that the zoning by the requirements, it's resulting to 1 parking space per 25 square meters, if I'm not mistaken. So that would result in 5 parking spaces for daycare. So, and that's based on some similar proxy site surveys. And yeah, in my professional opinion, it's sufficient.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can we, staff, could you possibly answer the question about accessibility parking? Will, in fact, accessibility parking be required on this site?
Through the chair, if you can give me a couple minutes, I can quickly skim through the bylaw.
Yeah, we can come back to that. If you wouldn't mind having a look and just, we can come back to that actually.
Another question I have for you is that we are talking about a confined space, as you're well aware of, in the back of this property. What are you going to do in terms of snow removal? Or has there been any consideration given to what you're going to be doing?
Not that I'm aware of at this point, because we were not asked these questions.
I have an idea, sir, if I may. Through our site visits, what I've personally observed, there are some green space gap between the driveway and throughout the site, and there is no actually trees or any bushes. I'm not sure if that can be used as a storage for snow removal. That's an idea.
Okay, that's all.
Other members of the committee with questions?
Through the chair, I'll just follow up on the snow removal. I was expecting you to talk about the snow being shipped somewhere else because definitely there's no space there. You cannot move the snow to anywhere, and so on. We're looking at that area. I was expecting you to say, based on other places maybe you've seen, usually people go and remove the snow and take it away somewhere else. Well, that's the only way you can deal with that, the snow. And if that's the case, maybe we'll need to, if we're coming to a point of putting it as a condition, we can put that for approving it for snow removal. Do you have any comment, staff, on snow removal, probably?
Through the chair, snow removal could potentially be addressed through a site plan as a condition. Typically, if it's reviewed through site plan, that would be the mechanism to most appropriately deal with that. In terms of a variance, the snow removal would be considered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have another question. Just like the other member said, you got 10 in your report. You say 10 employees. You don't specify how many are the staff to be teaching, and how many are there just to help maybe cleaning or whatever, as the other member of public was talking about. Can you mention how many will be the teaching staff, and how many, if at all, will be people just to help do maybe cleaning or whatever, or it will be the same people?
So they're typically, for small daycares, they're typically exact same members. So when we say 7, they take care of everything throughout the day, and 7 is based on the maximum number of kids that daycare could have at this point. I think is around 50 something, and the 3 we have as extra staff. So I do not have the exact number from here, but for a specific number of kids, you need to have 1 or 2 staff. So I think for every 10 or 12 kids, you need to have 1 staff. And based on our calculation, 7 was sufficient enough for the maximum. So if the daycare is going to run at its full capacity, we only need 7 full-time staff. So 3, the extra that we consider, are the ones that they might start helping later on, but it's not specified by Ministry of Education. So 7 is sufficient.
Okay. The other question is regarding the Presto cards you've mentioned. That has been like one of the reasons to help with parking. Like you're expecting staff members to use transit. And to encourage them to use transit, you are saying you're going to be giving them 3 months of prepaid Presto card. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's a typical travel demand management measure that we propose to similar situations. One of them is the transit subsidy to provide to employees, or if that was residential, to residents, to further encourage them to use the existing facilities nearby. And there are other, policies, but they're not actually in the hands of the owner. This is the only thing that they can actually do to promote travel demand management and transit use. So what it does is it kind of embed this culture to the new employees, and this when you don't have, for example, 7 parking spaces for 7 employees, which is not in any office or even daycare use anywhere. You can tell them that this is not an option, bring in the car. They know they don't have that option, so they have to, if they want to work there, they have to use the transit.
Okay, so you in your report you are recommending.
Yes.
And I don't see any assurance from the applicant that they're going to do it, because that's the main thing to help with the parking for employees, to use transit. because you only have four spaces.
And it can be
This
put in
seems
as
to
a
be
condition.
very key. So how are we going to implement it?
So this question was brought up in the last meeting, and I was asked that if we are to go and provide the staff with this method of transportation to help them, and the answer was yes. So since this is a solution that is proposed by a consultant, and you're expert at it, and I kind of don't know anything about it, we are going to take their word and use this method to help them transport from work to home. We have to add this to the culture, so we have to train them. It might be difficult at first, but I think we can work with them to introduce this as a solution.
Yeah, but do you agree 100% that is the main solution you are proposing here to help with the parking?
This is one of the solutions that we have to go for. If we are, since...
What's the other solution you're proposing? Because this seems to be, to me, we have actually emphasized on this one, that you'll be helping, the staff to use transit, so that once they're using traffic, they don't have to bring the car, and therefore these 4 spaces will be okay.
Yeah.
I want to see somewhere where you'd show or even now demonstrate how you're going to implement this.
I refer you to the parking study that we did. We have a similar diagram for both staff and pickup drop-off activities. When you compare this to our site, based on the GFA rates that we calculated, it is 5 parking spaces for staff.
Yeah, you still have 1. You still have...
No, yeah. 1 is short. So just to eliminate 1, I personally really believe that you don't need to do anything, because they're not really comparable in terms of access to transit. That's 5-minute walks to Viva and Yonge, and 5 minutes walk to Goa Station to the east. And there are 2 or 3 other very with short headway transit routes along the Wellington. So I think naturally the parking demand would be fewer than what we got from the proxy site. So adding this TDM measure or transit subsidy is further encouraging them to do that.
Can I add something on it? So the owners, they currently live in Toronto, and they're planning to, because they will be both parts of their husband and wife, and they will be part of the staff. So out of those 7, they are actually finishing their education right now in one of the colleges, and they live in Toronto. They're planning to move to Aurora to live close to where they work. So I could easily tell you, out of those 7 people, 2 of them will be owners. They're currently running 2 daycares in their country. So they have been doing it for, I think, 20-something years. That's why they're planning to start a daycare here. So I could tell you that would also help.
Yeah,
Yes.
you see the dilemma, and I'll just, if you don't mind, David, I'll jump in just for 1 second. You see the dilemma that Mr. Brims is pointing out here, and his comment is not unlike other comments that we've heard in the past when reductions to parking are being requested. He may have over-exaggerated. 99.9% of the people don't use public transit. However, his comment is not falling on deaf ears here. We know that the ridership on the GO trains, for example, in particular, and public transit throughout York Region is increasing. That's terrific. That's exactly what the goal is, and that is what the goal will continue to be. However, we talked about the potential for trying to put in a condition that required you to provide the passes, and it is not something that can be put in as a condition and enforced. There's no mechanism to enforce that. Very difficult. So the best that we can do as a committee is listen to what you're saying, and based on comments like those that you have just made about the owners and their particular situation, that's great for us to hear. In 10 years, when they want to move to a different facility because they've done so well, and someone else wants to come in and do exactly the same thing, those conditions might have changed. And as, you know, as a committee, we have to take all of those comments into consideration. Just before we leave parking, can I go to staff on answering the other question that Mr. Brims had on the requirement for handicap as brought up by Hank? Have you got an answer on that?
Yeah. Through the chair, section 5.8 of the town zoning bylaw states that barrier-free parking spaces are required for all non-residential uses. And further, it specifies there's a type A and type B, where the minimum number of barrier-free parking spaces required is an even number, in this case 8. An equal number of type A and type B shall be required. Where there are 12 or fewer required parking spaces, a type A barrier-free parking space is required. And that type A parking space measures 3.65 meters in width and 5.3 in length.
So, just repeat the numbers again. Just the dimensions, please. It's 3.
A type A barrier-free dimension is 3.65 meters in width by 5.3 meters in length.
And how many would then be required in this particular application?
Through section 5.8.2 of the zoning bylaw, minimum required parking spaces where there's fewer than 12, 1 is required.
1. Thank you. Thank you for getting that information to us. So again, I'm going to pass that on to you, that the answer to that question, Mr. Brims, is they do have to provide 1. Whether or not they can, well, I'll just ask you to hold on for 1 second. So I would. There is a requirement, I'll ask staff, there is a requirement here. There are some conditions that would be satisfied through a letter of undertaking that applies to some of the existing conditions that you are aware of. You're shaking your head yes. And there would be financial guarantees that would be required in order for the town to have funds should they not be completed within the prescribed time limit. Am I correct on that, staff?
Sorry, can you just repeat that one more time?
Yeah,
The end part?
we understand that satisfying conditions, particularly with respect to the existing conditions that are attached to this application, would be satisfied through a letter of undertaking, and there would be a requirement for deposits associated with that.
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. All right. So I don't know if you have enough information on the drawings that you've got with you tonight to be able to comment on those dimensions for providing a parking spot having 3.5 by 5.3 meters. Looking at it, I'm presuming that there would be some way of doing that. I'm not sure if those parking spots have been dimensioned, have they? Well, I don't think any of them that are there now. I'm wondering if I'm worried about the length of 5.3. I know that if I take the one that's closest to that play area and widen that out from whatever it is to 3.5 meters in width, and if the length there is sufficient in order to do it. I mean, these would be conditions that would have to go through the building department, and they would be picked up at that time. Correct. Correct, staff?
Through the chair, conditional approval is with the satisfaction of the conditions imposed by town staff or committee if chosen.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to let Mr. Brims, you wanted to make a comment on that. Let's resolve that and hear what your comment would be. Normally we don't, but...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make a quick comment. I'm fairly familiar with accessible parking requirements, and I'm a little surprised that this has come before you without an accessible parking spot in the drawings. The consultant, the designer, whoever it is, and your own staff. This should have been picked up before this.
I would agree.
And the second comment, if I can just make a quick second comment, you go 3.5 meters in width on one of those parking spaces, you're removing another parking space. So you're now down from 8 to 7.
Or you're reducing that play area to the north.
Whichever. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, thank you. Okay, I haven't even asked Roy if he has any, or David, did you, I apologize.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead.
So I was still talking about the main reason you're talking about reducing the parking is using transit. And of course you mentioned that there are a lot of transit there. Of course it's true. But how are we going to make it that I want to hear from you, if maybe I'll give you an answer. I want you to hear from you that you're going to, whenever you're going to be employing, one first and foremost condition will be that they'll be using transit. Because as you know, many people like using cars.
Yeah, correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally understand that's a concern.
Have that assurance, because you only have 4 parking spaces.
Yeah, exactly.
And if depending upon the design of the area, if they say the school board doesn't work based on the numbers of the students, kids you have, that play area which can also partly be used for parking, the school board says no, this is the area you need to have, you cannot reduce it. That means you have to affect the parking for handicap to affect the other 4 remaining parking spaces. You don't even know. There are a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, that totally true. But those parking spaces that mentioned there, they're not our design. We just took the borders of the land and the building and designed the driveway. Those parking spaces that shown there, they're just existing parking spaces, and we removed those, and based on this application, it's just for removal of those. But for example, if during the site plan application it turns out that handicap parking is required and cannot be fitted there, and it's up to the owner to reduce the, come to kind of negotiations with the Ministry of Education to reduce the playground area or number of children even.
We have to limit the number of children.
Yeah, and for sorry, your first question was about transit and how to enforce them. Yeah.
You only have 4 parking spaces.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that or is way.
One parking spot will be for the owners, who will be 2 of them. So now you're getting
actually,
8 employees and 3 parking spaces.
In our parking study, we never relied on that. That's something, as you mentioned, this is just in this case, what if they sell it, or this piece of land changes hands. So we never actually considered that in our parking study. So we assumed that whoever is working there, either is owner or not, that 4 number of parking spaces is sufficient. Please consider that if that same use were proposed somewhere else, not that with the exceptioning bylaw, the parking requirement would be just 5. So that actually is something, it's over that. And further, in the official plan, it's specifically stated that along Wellington and Yonge, town should consider parking reduction. So this is not, to me, I think it's not really reduction. In similar office uses, there are lots of office uses. For example, not really on subway stations, further from them, that has just 2 parking spaces for 20 employees. So that's not something that, say, yeah, for every employee we must provide parking spaces. This is not a really successful policy.
Let me ask the owner, is it okay if we put a condition in this issue of voter approval?
No, he's not the owner. He's not the owner.
No, I'm saying, yeah, if you are the owner. You are the one also.
I'm there. Yes.
Yeah. I'm asking you, would that be okay to put a condition there in the approval, for voter approval, that you should be providing police cars to your employees?
Sure. I don't see why not. I think it's a culture that they should start practicing. I know it's going to take some time, but I think it's a good practice. At first, it could be a little hard for them, but they will get used to it, little by little. If they know that if they want to work there, they need to follow this policy, they will adjust to it.
Okay, Roy?
Did I hear correctly that the snow will be removed and taken away? I presume that's the proper way to do it.
No, I think we just mentioned that there is sufficient space around there. So if you can look at the drawing, there is, I think, a meter. There's a green space alongside the parking on both sides and at the end. That could be used, but we could contract the snow removal company, private snow removal company to, I think, and that's what the current owner is doing, to take care of the snow removal.
So I can envision in the morning a truck full of snow coming out and people bringing their children have to wait on the street. Where are they going to wait till the snow is removed, or when that truck, it's one-way traffic? I can see a problem in the winter.
I believe we could try. I think they could do it off-peak hours. It's from 12 o'clock till 6 a.m. That I don't think it's going to snow that much from 6 till 8 a.m. They would have sufficient time to do the snow removal. We just have to give them a proper contract. So they will know that's for a daycare and they have to take care of it.
Before 8 a.m.
Let's hope we don't have much snow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming back to Hank. Go ahead, Hank.
Sir, just before you sit down, I need to clarify. Are you the applicant or the agent or the owner? What are you?
I'm the agent.
You're the agent on behalf of the owners?
Yes.
Who are the owners being the applicants?
Yes.
Okay, and they are not here?
They are not here.
They live in Toronto?
No, they're out of the country right now. But they live in Toronto. Yes, they live in Toronto.
They were out of the country the last time you were here?
Yes.
And they're still out of the country?
Yes, because she's actually teaches, she's a professor, she teaches early childhood, and she's running a daycare out of the country. They're planning to move to Canada to run exact same business here. That's why she's actually interested to start her own daycare. She's been doing it for over 20 years right now, and she teaches it at a university. So in the university level, so she could enhance how a lot of daycares are being run in Canada.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're not done.
No, if you have some comments, that's fine.
No, continue, please. Continue, Hank. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, I've sat here and I've listened to a lot of your comments, and I appreciate receiving them. However, personally, I'm still skeptical about the proxy site. I'm skeptical about the adequacy of the parking, especially since now we have found out that we need an accessible spot. I'm accessible egress in and out of the site. I am concerned about snow removal or snow storage. And one thing I haven't even commented on is the prospect of putting a playground in the front yard. To me is totally appalling. Totally appalling that you would consider a playground in the front yard on a busy thoroughfare. Okay? So I've just made those observations. So, and you haven't done anything to convince me that you have adequate parking on this site?
If you want to comment, please go ahead.
I'm just going to say thank you, but I will say thank you for your comments. We are not going to go with the playground in front of the property. We've kind of noticed that a while ago, and that's why everything has moved to the backyard. So the front yard playground is completely gone. That's not going to happen. We noticed that after we started looking at these studies, and that's just completely, that's off the table. Completely. But thanks for bringing that up.
I'm going to ask you to come back again. I'm sorry. So you've heard all of the comments. You've heard the comments from Mr. Brims, and you've heard comments and concerns expressed at the table. You've had some information that have come to you through staff here. Matthew, did you want to add anything further?
Through the chair, just quickly, regarding the barrier-free, should this come forward subsequent to any application, it would just be confirmed at that point. This is just a quick skim of the bylaw, but should anything come forward, in case I've missed anything in this short amount of time.
Thank you. One of the comments that you made, and I'm just going to ask for clarity on it. I applaud the fact that you had another look at the access, particularly from Wellington and that radius that you're showing now. And, you know, one of the questions that I've got for you, when you made comment, is there that sidewalk that is coming down, let's say from the non-proposed now playground at the front, down the side of the building, and you mentioned that the sidewalk was 1.5 meters. Is that a minimum requirement? I'm wondering why you didn't widen it. You know, you've got one car depth from Wellington there, or from the sidewalk, one car depth, and then it narrows, the driveway narrows. Yeah, thanks for sliding that over for us there to have a look at. And yeah, sorry, 1.5, what is that, centimeter? What is that dimension there? Oh, 1.50 meters. Is that a minimum requirement? It is. And does that extend all the way down that side of the building to where that jog comes back out to the 4.45? Okay, so you couldn't have made that wider coming down there to allow double stacking? No, okay. I just wanted clarity on that, because for me that would have made some sense, but I understand that that is a requirement. Okay, so the opportunity to stack more than one there would be impossible. I'm also going to suggest, and this may not have any real bearing on it, but the conditions that are in the staff report you have no problem with. Is that correct? Okay. If there was an additional condition added that speaks to this drawing and the signage, for example, the radius, for example, the installation of that stop bar, and I'm going to take it a step further. Because you're showing two-way traffic in an alleyway there that goes from 4.45 down the side of the building to, what is that, 4.2? Or 4.2? Thank you. That those, the direction of travel there be enhanced by providing painted lineage that shows the separation so that traffic doesn't get confused if is that one way or not. Okay? And if we were to, I don't know that we can impose the presto pass, because it's just not enforceable. We'd have to take that at your word. So there's nothing there that we could do to put that in as a condition that the town would have any hope in being able to enforce. So that those conditions would then be, and I'll throw in snow removal too, because that to me is a big one. That would become a condition that we would add. I'm only making the suggestion to the members of the committee because there was some discussion about all of what I am talking about now following your resubmission with these drawings, because these drawings do make a lot of sense to me. That they would be included as terms and conditions in a separate letter of undertaking with the town of Aurora, as a condition through a minor site plan agreement that deals with these matters. Is that something that you okay? So I am going to echo my fellow members' comments. Personally, I believe that the community is in dire need, and I think I mentioned this last month, of daycare facilities, given the increase in transit use, particularly those using the trains to get in and out of the city and other points, in close proximity to, GO stations in particular. Since I've been in Aurora, I've seen the population of the community more than double, and I've seen the use of the trains increase tremendously. I've used them. It would be very convenient to have something this close to the GO station. However, I've also looked at a number of daycares, and given the potential for up to 50 children here, and some of the other daycares that I've seen where you have up to 10 parking spots with restrictions of 10-minute maximum parking for pickup and drop-off that have much better access to maneuver in and out. I think this one, I have some very serious reservations. And to make matters worse, I can tell you that I travel up and down Wellington enough during the times when the trains are in to know that the traffic is going to back up in front of this location and further west, and that someone trying to make a left-hand turn out of here is going to bottleneck anybody trying to come in or go out. So as much as I know that there may be some solutions to me, offered to take into account the handicap parking space, I wish I felt better about, the numbers that you're throwing around here with regards to drop-off and staff. So if that is the case and there is a motion that comes forward, I may pass the chair to someone so that I can introduce some additional conditions that I've spoken about, or if one of the other members wants to pick up on that, then we can do it through a motion that would come forward on this application that would include those points that I've just raised. So I don't know if you want to make any other further comment. I've watched you shaking your head with regards to the conditions that I would like to add, and I would like to know if that, again, is something that you would agree to.
This daycare work in this area, we would accept it. Even the Presto card, if we will implement it because we find it necessary. We will try to come up with, I don't know how we could, what kind of proof that we could give to the city that would prove that we will use this as a mean of reducing traffic. I've also talked about how they're planning to live close by, and there's going to be much less need for staff to use those parking lots. And the comments that is made by staff and members, we will consider them and we will follow them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more clarification through staff, if I may, for Mr. Brims. He did raise the question that the application to reduce the parking, I know what the answer is, but I would like him to hear it from staff. An application for zoning variance for a reduction in parking based on this particular use and this particular application comes forward. What happens if a daycare is no longer on this particular site? And we've reduced the parking for the daycare down to 8. What happens if ABC accounting firm comes in and takes over after these folks have been so successful?
Through the chair, it would correspond with the use that's coming forward. It would tie, because this is a site-specific bylaw and the request is to reduce to 8, the 8 would hold on the property moving forward.
Okay. So there's the answer to that one other question that you did ask, Mr. Brims. Okay. All right. I've said what I'm going to say on this application. I'll look to the members of the committee for a motion on the application.
Through the chair, I agree with your proposal for conditions.
Oh, sorry. Hold on one second, David. Yes.
Through the chair, should you move to approve this, you can also tie the reduced parking spots, the reduced parking spot variance to the use.
To the use, yes, no.
As
okay.
a condition.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, I figured that's where you were coming from. I was going to make the suggestion when we got to it as well.
So I agree with you with all the conditions, including what the staff have mentioned, that this will be tied to only this application, the snow removal, something about the handicapped, something about financial security deposit. I'm not sure, maybe from staff, with a condition, can we put that in here as a condition for security deposit, or is something which you always do automatically?
Through the chair, the letter of undertaking would encompass securities, both from planning and Parks Department.
Okay, so we don't have to mention it in here?
No.
Yeah, okay. So I'm through the chair, I move that this application be approved subject to the condition in the staff's report and also the conditions which we have just talked about regarding traffic management, the snow removal, handicapped, and the parking reduction only applies to this application.
Did you want to specifically also mention the radius with regards to the site, the radius of the widening of curb?
Yes. So basically, I would say
the painting.
I can go in more detail, but we will put the condition which read the owner shall implement recommendations of the access, operational, and the functional design review report to manage traffic on site, which include increase westerly curb radius of 5 meters, widening driveway to 5.5 for the 5.8 portion from the north property limit, installing a new stop with yield to oncoming traffic sign, installing a stop bar, that is line painting within the parking lot for exiting vehicles, and assigning at least one staff to direct traffic on site. And the other one related to that would be also that the owner shall install line painting to clearly separate one inbound and one outbound lanes, including in and out arrows at the 5.5 widened driveway portion for the 5.8 meter from the property line. This is to basically ensure safety and the vehicles will stay within their lanes. And lastly, the condition about the
use?
It should include the terms and conditions in the undertaking. Then the other condition is that the owner should provide a means of snow removal from the site.
And that the reduction in parking be associated with this particular use?
Yes, yes, yes.
I think that covers all of it. So that's the motion with conditions as amended. Is there a seconder? No. We're now in discussion on what we're doing with the motion moving forward. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seeing none. Okay. Sorry, David. Is there a motion from any other member of the committee on this application? Roy?
I move, Mr. Chairman, that the application MV 201-18-26, I think we've hashed it over pretty good. I recommend it be refused.
Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Hank. I'll call the question. All in favor on the motion to refuse the application? So that motion carries. So unfortunately, we are not in a position to grant the variance as requested. The chair recognizes staff.
Through the chair, you'll just have to state why the variance is being denied.
Oh, yes.
In terms of the foretest, the minor variance.
Okay, yes,
For
you're right.
record.
You're right. Roy, do you want to go ahead and, as you made the motion, or Hank, do you want to, who would like to state reasons?
Oh, do you want to state the reasons? You listed them pretty good.
I think that the main reason is I believe that 8 parking spots is inadequate for a combination of staff members and the parents dropping children off and picking them up again in the evening.
4 tests. Why does it not meet the 4 tests? It's not appropriate for the development of the community.
Well, I don't think it's appropriate for this particular site. I totally agree that we need more daycare centers, but I don't think it's appropriate for this particular site.
So it's not minor in nature?
It's not minor in nature, that's correct.
I'm afraid it is too late. Yeah. So I will just say this much. So the reasons that the member who seconded the motion are bringing it forward, in addition to parking, is that in the opinion of the committee, the variances are not minor in nature and the variances are not appropriate for the development of the community in that area as requested. Now, so you will be notified by staff in writing, and there are options that you do have, appeal being one of them. And that would be based on the reasons that we've given to you, based on the 4 tests that have to be satisfied to the comfort level of the municipality. So you'll be advised in due course, and you can take whatever appropriate action you wish based on that. Okay. Moving forward, in the agenda, we have MV 28-13. I believe it's Marcanco Real Estate Assets Incorporated, 169 Edward Street. It appears on the agenda as an update to be noted that the application has been withdrawn by the applicant. And So I don't believe, staff, there's anything further we need to do on that item. We'll just move forward. Oh, is it with regards to the application? That is why you're here. All right, well, has the application been withdrawn? I'll look to staff for then information on this item. There are obviously people here.
Through the chair, the applicant has withdrawn this application, and the application is closed for consideration.
So, no, let me just say this. Thank you for coming, because obviously you're here and you've got some issues or concerns. What I would suggest that you do is you contact, because it may not be these gentlemen that will be able to answer whatever questions you do have. I would suggest that you get in touch with staff at the town of Aurora. I'm sorry to make you wait all of this time just to hear that, but there's nothing that this committee can do at this point. If our agenda has been set and the staff here have been advised by the applicant that it has been withdrawn, I would. Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Well, then I'll suggest that you connect with staff independently of the meeting. Then, yeah, that would be my suggestion. I'm sorry that you had to. I see. Okay. Phone call tomorrow. Yes, thank you. You as well. I believe there's a jacket there. It might be. All right. Back to the. The agenda back up, Antonio. Thank you. The next application is MV 2018-31. That is 1618 Mosley Avenue in Aurora, Mosley Street. So this is a minor variance application. The purpose of the application is to permit a daycare as a permitted use, thereby requiring a variance. Boy, we've been talking about daycares this evening, have we not? We're not over yet. We're not done yet. Departments and agencies circulated. Planning Division. Application reviewed, subject to conditions. Building Division preliminary zoning review. Engineering Division application reviewed, no comments. Operational Services reviewed, no comments. Central York Fire Services reviewed, no comments. Electric Utilities reviewed, no comments. York Region reviewed, subject to conditions. So there appear to be no comments. However, there are conditions suggested in relation to this application. So I'll ask the applicant to come forward. And in the recommendations, the Regional Municipality of York has completed its review of the minor variance, and a Section 59 notice will be required for the application. The information on this can be found on york.ca, and that's condition 1. And condition 2, submission to the Secretary Treasurer of written confirmation from the town's director or designate of planning and development services that the applicant has satisfied all the conditions and subject to site plan control. I'll just, before you make a presentation, I'll just make sure that you have seen that condition, have familiarized yourself with that condition. All right, terrific. The floor is yours, sir.
Conform to it. I just want to mention that the item number 4 is for the same property as well.
Correct.
And it's for a minor variance for a private school.
We'll deal with them separately just in case, and we'll need separate resolutions regardless.
Sure, no problem.
So go ahead, sir.
Thank you, and good evening. My name is Claudio Belbino from the Agora Research Group. We're land use planners and market analysts representing the registered owner of 16 and 18 Mosley Street. As you are aware, the owner is seeking a minor variance from the zoning bylaw to include a daycare center and a private school as permitted uses in the lands on the lands and adjacent to the existing permitted uses. This building at 16 Mosley Street has a long history. Built in 1856, we understand that this is the oldest standing church building in Aurora. It was home to the New Connection Methodist Church until 1885, when the Salvation Army purchased the building. The building was also home to the Mary Poppins Center, the first private daycare center in Aurora.
Okay.
Also, the owner is not proposing any alterations to the exterior of the existing building. As we understand, the property is listed on the Aurora Register of Properties and Cultural Heritage Value or Interest. We have read staff's reports and are in agreement with staff's zoning assessment, along with staff's finding that the variance is considered minor in nature and is desirable for the appropriate development and use of land and building. We further agree with staff's recommendation for approval of the minor variance to include all the conditions outlined in the staff report. In conclusion, it's our professional opinion that the proposed minor variance applications meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. The proposed uses are appropriate for the applicant's lands based upon permitted uses within the stable neighborhood designation and the lack of impact on the surrounding land uses. So thank you for your consideration, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak? You're good. Thank you. All right. I'll ask members of the committee if you have any questions, comments, concerns on this application. David?
Through the chair, just asking, how many washrooms do you have, or you plan to have? Okay, the reason I'm asking this is if your daycare don't have enough washrooms, there's a problem. So, any staff, do you think the question I'm asking would be addressed at a different application, or what?
Through the chair, David, do you mind repeating your question?
So my question is, how many washrooms are there now, or are they proposed to be?
Or how many are required?
Or how many are required?
Through the chair, I would have to defer to the building department and the Ontario Building Code. So subject to any further application, they would have to meet the requirements outlined by the Ontario Building Code.
So the assumption is, let's say we approve this one here, the building department will make sure that this daycare meets the requirement of the Ontario Building Code related to what number of washrooms.
Through the chair, yes. Anything moving forward, because it is a change of use, it will be a permit. It will be an application for building permit, and it would go through full Ontario Building Code review, in which the washrooms are a requirement.
I think the applicant wanted to make a comment.
Through the chair, it will also be reviewed by the Nursery Day Act and the Ministry of Education. So the applicants will require approval from that body as well.
Hank?
Question for staff more than the gentleman speaking to us, but this is a heritage building, but I see that we didn't receive any comments from heritage staff. Is that correct?
Through the chair, our heritage planner was actually the individual that prepared this report.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Maybe to address the question about washrooms, what if you put up that on the screen? Would that not show what
I guess this is the current layout, is it? And not.
I think there's one there that's proposed.
Oh, is it proposed?
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's certainly one there for the private school, and I'm assuming
Oh, yeah, renovation for the new daycare.
the other one would be there as well. We can talk about that in a minute. Just a question here. What's the current use of the main floor?
Currently, it's vacant.
Okay, thank you. And currently, the second floor is what, 2 apartments, is that correct?
Correct, 2 apartments.
Okay,
yes.
that are rented?
Rented, yes.
Okay. And there's a small house in the back?
That's correct.
Which is the cutest thing I've seen in Aurora.
Yes.
And that's rented as well?
That's rented with one unit, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And when I looked at the, I guess the site plan, because you, like the previous applicant, have to make provision for, at least for daycare, you have to make a provision for a playground.
Yes.
And that playground would be immediately behind the building?
Yes.
And in front of the little house as well, right?
Right.
That little square?
Yes.
Okay. So having said that, so the parking, I think I read that you also are setting aside 2 spots for each apartment unit?
That's correct.
And is it 1 or 2 spots for the single-family dwelling?
Okay, I have it here. Just 1 second, please. So the way it works for daycare, with the daycare option, the existing dwelling above the commercial building requires 4 spaces, and the accessory building, which would be 18 Mosley, the small house, requires 2 spaces.
Okay, so a total of 6?
6, yeah.
Okay. And how many spaces are you proposing then for the daycare/private school?
Okay, it's different for each. So under the daycare, the bylaw requires 2.5 spaces per 100 meters squared. So the daycare space is 164.8. So if you work out the numbers, it comes out to 4 spaces.
4 spaces in total?
In total, yeah. So the required, if you add them all up, you require 10 spaces. We're providing 13.
Okay, okay.
That's for the daycare.
Right, and so in other words, you're 6 for existing uses, that would be a total of 7 for the daycare.
That's correct.
Staff and drop-off.
That's right.
Okay. Yep. Okay, and what's it for the private school?
Wait.
Oh, we're not doing it?
No, we're going to do them separate.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Hank.
That's okay.
We're going to get there.
No, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
That's why I asked about the washrooms.
Are you okay for? Yeah, just the daycare.
Through the chair. The play area, all of the rear yard is all asphalt. How are you going to have a nice play area there on asphalt?
Well, no, we'll obviously, through site plan control, we'll put whatever layers required for the play area.
Kind of a grass area with a little fence around it or something?
Whatever is required under the Nursery Act and the building.
Industry Education Act, yeah.
They really dictate a lot of what they're very active and very proactive in ensuring that the daycare facilities are planned and completed properly.
It's not always grass.
Well, this drawing is up on half on the next one and half on this. Okay. How are you going to separate the 2 uses? Could you tell us what you might do to separate them?
Well, the way it works is you will either have total daycare on the first floor or total private. There's no mixing of uses.
Are you talking about the separation between residential above and daycare
No.
above?
So in other words, then you saying 1 use on the main floor, then you'll get rid of the apartments.
No. The apartments stay. So let's call it the ground floor.
Right.
So it's either going to be daycare, or if approved, it'll be private school. We won't mix the 2. We won't have half daycare and half private school.
So you're going to have one or the other.
One or the other.
So you're trying for 2 and you settle for 1. Okay, that answers. Thank you.
So yeah, that's explain that, because I think we're going to be splitting Yeah, one side daycare, one side.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
now.
so
Very confusing. That's why I was looking for the drawing itself.
So that's the answer. Thank you.
Are you okay?
I'm okay.
David, you're okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Hank? All right. So I think my questions actually have all been brought forward. So I'll look to the committee for a motion on this application on the daycare.
I do have one more comment.
Oh, please do.
Since I raised it the last time, what would be the, how are you going to address snow removal on that site?
Okay, so we have a surplus of 3 parking spaces.
Okay.
So those, or the owner has basically committed to removing the snow, as we would in most commercial projects. Okay.
Sorry, just another question. So, do you have people in the basement?
No.
Oh, you can see 2 washrooms there.
Oh.
Thank you.
Looking for a motion then on this application. Oh, Matthew, I'm sorry.
Through the chair, it might be beneficial to defer the motion and hear the following application as the applicant is seeking just one of the options. Because if you approve this one, and the next matter is you haven't been able to hear yet.
Am I to understand, let me just ask the applicant, am I to understand that the applications that you're asking for are for both, and should an individual come forward, or is there someone that you're representing that it does want to open a daycare or a private school? Do you know that answer?
They have options on both. The problem is with a lot of these leases is it's a chicken and egg. No one's going to sign a lease until you have the approval. So they've asked us to go for both. We tried to combine them, but staff basically said they wanted to separate the two. So we wanted to add 2 uses to the existing uses, but staff said to separate the two. But we are hoping for approval of both uses.
So let me go back to staff. If we approve the first one, what are our options for the second?
Okay. Through the chair, just in hearing the conversation, my understanding was that it was either one or the other. But further to the applicant or the agent's explanation now, both can, in theory, be approved.
Correct. And that's why I thought we were looking at both. I was anticipating your answer being exactly what you said.
Right.
Right. You know, it's one of those issues where we do come across it. You know, get the approval and first, and we'll sign the lease. And well, what would you like to do, sir? Well, either a daycare or a private school. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to tie their hands, or you tie your hands, or the owner tie their hands. Right. So, that being said, we can approve this one, and we can approve the other, effectively approving 2 land use options for you through minor variance.
Yep.
So, back to committee here for a recommendation.
Through the chair, I move that the application MV-2018-31 be approved subject to the 2 conditions in the staff's report.
Thank you. Look for a seconder. Seconded by Hank. All in favor? And that carries. So we will move on to minor variance application, same address, MV 2018-32. Purpose of the application, to permit a private school as a permitted use, thereby requiring a variance. I'll go through departments circulated. Planning Division application reviewed subject to conditions. Building Division preliminary zoning review. Engineering Division reviewed, no comments. Operational Services reviewed, no comments. Central York Fire Services reviewed, no comments. Electric Utilities reviewed, no comments. York Region application review subject to conditions, and those conditions are from the region, the Section 59 notice, and submission to the condition 2, submission to the Secretary Treasurer, proposal that the proposal be subject to site plan control, and that the owner provides sufficient bicycle parking as per Section 5.7 of the Town of Aurora zoning bylaw 6000-17.
That's a new one, parking bicycles.
There we have it. So I am assuming the applicant is here and is familiar with those conditions. And is there anything that you would like to add with regards to the application for the private school?
Out would be the private school requires 1.5 spaces per classroom, which they're proposing 4 classrooms. So that's a total of 6 parking spaces. And then we have the 4 for the units above and 2 for the accessory building, which makes 12. And we're providing 21 parking spaces under the private school scenario, because obviously we're removing the play area.
Right. And seeing that there is no one here from the public wishing to address this application, I'll look to members of the committee for comments, questions of the applicant. Go ahead.
Can I ask staff, this is the first time in many, many a year that I've seen this parking of bicycles. Is that something new, or what, am I been dreaming or asleep? He's laughing.
Through the chair, this is a requirement through the town zoning bylaw. Through the chair, this is a requirement through the town zoning bylaw, and there is a condition that's subject to site plan control, and this would be caught through site plan as well.
Good, I like it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Do you know what sort of private school would that be? Like for small kids? Or
private for a private school.
Okay. And if it's private school, do you know about how many students will be there?
Yeah. So okay. So there'll be room for about 4 classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it could range. I don't know. For example, the daycare, there was, based upon the square footage and the play area, was about 27, 28 students, right? So it'd probably be the same for the private school.
So how many out of those do you expect them to come with cars and park?
Again, so we're following the bylaw, and the bylaw is 1.5 spaces per classroom. So if we have 4 classrooms, that's a total of 6 parking spaces that are required.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even if you double it to 8 classrooms, then you're up to 16, and you're still more or less within the bylaw requirements.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hank?
Just one question.
Sure.
So you've explained what type of schools. Like, what typically number of students would be in one of these classes?
Well, it's hard to say. So typically they're usually in a fairly small environment. So I'd say probably under 10 per class, and they can be it's not like daycare that they're there, say, from 8 to 4. These private schools are probably are staggered throughout the day or throughout the evening, right? Because they're obviously learning units versus a total.
So they're not day school where the kids are there all day. They're there
No.
for a portion of the day, and the portion of the day could be after regular school.
After regular school,
Okay.
into the evenings, perhaps.
Okay,
right?
thank you.
Or early morning, or whatever. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions on this one? No? And I am also...
We'll make sure to have enough water.
And we've been preoccupied with parking all night. Now you're going to throw in the faucets and the sinks and the taps. Okay. And I'm fine with this application as far as questions and what have you on this one as well. So I will look to the committee for a motion on this item. Hank?
I put forward a motion to approve the application MV 218-32 to permit a private school as a permitted use, subject to the two conditions
As outlined under the recommendations.
And seconded by? By David. All in favor? And that carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience in sitting through the discussions this evening. I'm sure it was enlightening.
It was. Thank you. Thanks again. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
And as we have dealt with item 5 in the presentation of applications for 32 Wells Street, I'll move to new business. Is there any new business arising from staff or from members of the committee? I think we've all been informed that Marco Ramuno will be leaving the town of Aurora's planning department. And I was going to say saved by the bell, but and I'm sure we all wish him the best in his new challenge outside of the town of Aurora. Anything else? I believe under new business, and I'll ask because we are at the end of, effectively the end of our term, applications for residents to join committees and what have you. I believe there was a deadline on the Committee of Adjustment of, is it today or yesterday? Was it yesterday?
Through the chair, yesterday.
Yesterday.
Was the deadline.
And council will be looking at the applications that have been received and moving forward. I don't know, is there a timeline on that, Matthew?
Through the chair, the applications are currently being processed. To our understanding, they're looking to implement by January.
By January, okay. Okay, I think that was all that I wanted to mention, other than that under new business we note that Grace is not with us this evening, and we have been, I don't know if there's any news on her particular, may not be appropriate to bring it up at this point, but her presence has been missed. And from the chair's position tonight, I just want to recognize that she has been missed, and I have enjoyed being vice chair for the last couple of meetings, I guess it's not consecutive, but over the fall months, and hope she is back and in good stead. So I don't have anything further. Does anybody else, other than wishing everyone compliments of the season?
Just question. So for the next meeting of Committee of Adjustment members, which will be in January, will this committee still be there at transition, or will be whoever have been chosen for next term of council.
Through the chair, we will follow up with you accordingly. To our understanding, right now, we believe you will be in the chair for January, but council will announce the panel and when they will start their term.
I believe the schedule for upcoming meetings has been determined for 2019, and so those dates, I believe, are known. Certainly over for the next at least 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct on that?
Through the chair, the 2019 Committee of Adjustment schedule that's the draft form. It has to get finalized before council. However, that is a time frame for new applications to come in as we do proceed every month with C of A.
Right.
Therefore, it's a draft, but it will be approved at council next council meeting.
Okay. Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
I know the past years we've stayed till January.
That's right.
Yeah. Transition period, so it's possible. But you let us know.
Anything else under new business or continuance?
What is the Henderson? What's the status of the Henderson application?
Is that
Through the chair, they have not come forward with anything yet. We will, as it becomes available, we will advise, and should it come forward in advance of the next meeting date, it will be on the agenda. So until they submit and are ready to proceed, we'll advise the committee as per when they come forward. At this time, it's not certain when they will come forward with the requirements to proceed.
okay? So prior to asking for a motion to adjourn as chair for this evening, I'd like to extend on behalf of the Committee of Adjustment that has been here this year, our thanks and appreciation to staff. Both of you being relatively, I'll say new, have done a remarkable job. And as chair, I want to go on record as having made that known to both of you, and wish you and staff here, everyone who is part of providing us with information, all of the efforts to make our job that much easier. A thanks and wish everyone the compliments of the season. And with that, I guess I can ask for a motion to adjourn. And we are adjourned. And you can put that in the